Hey, this is Bob out here at Serenity Hill. This happens to be the hottest day of the year so far. This happens to be the hottest day of the year so far. And fortunately, I got my first wall finished yesterday. I'll show you that in a minute. And then after that, I'll have a time-lapse video that shows how it gets made. Now, in this time-lapse video, you'll see me mixing mortar in a black tub by hand. But I have since managed to acquire this jewel, and boy, it's a whole lot easier mixing mortar in this. Keep it pointing down so it didn't fill up with rain. It's a whole lot easier mixing mortar in that than it is with the mortar hoe. I still dump it in the black tub to get it up to where I need it, but at any rate. Oh, and another little thing, you see, I just finished my my most recent Gatorade. And say, that's not Gatorade, that looks like a McDonald's cup. Well, it is. But see, what I do, instead of buying Gatorade in all those plastic bottles and having all those plastic bottles to throw away, is I buy a canister that's a powdered Gatorade. It makes up to 9 gallons. It's got a little scoop in it, and about 3/4 of a scoop in this repurposed McDonald's cup. I've been using this cup for the past month and a half, I guess, and I just wash it out every couple days, rinse it out real good every couple days, put a little soap in it and wash it out. But that's what I mix my Gatorade up in, and then I got me a straw to drink it through. And so I'm not throwing away a bunch of plastic, and I'm repurposing, and I feel a lot better about that. Not to mention the fact that that jar that makes 9 gallons, I paid $9 for it. And last I looked, I think an 8-pack of the 16 or 20 ounce Gatorades was like $5. So for $9, it's a great buy, and it's more environmentally friendly, and you're not throwing a bunch of stuff away, and it's real convenient. I just keep it up there on the house site, and when I need some Gatorade, I dump it in the cup, take this out to the faucet, fill it up. That helps to mix it and drink away. It's not ice cold, but you know, when you're sweating like crazy, it fills the bill. At any rate, this is my first wall, totally finished, top to bottom, almost 11 feet wide, 8 feet tall. Finally got one wall done, and I'm prepping to do the next wall, and I'll show you that real quick. All right, you can hear my fan in the background. Got to keep cool. For doing these walls, what I do is I put down roofing paper. That's a heavy-duty roofing paper. My walls are 16 inches thick, so I fold it so it's 16 inches wide. Put the fold on the bottom. That's just to keep any moisture that might get underneath for some odd reason. Keep it from getting on the OSB. And then I staple that down, and I go ahead and use the little staples that I use for my roofing underlayment. I've got the plastic on it, that way it doesn't go all the way through. If you ever try stapling this stuff with just a regular staple gun, your staples will go right through the roofing felt, so you really need these. And then I'm using this brown drip rail, and what the drip rail does is for me is it if I do happen to get some sideways rain and get rainwater on, it'll flow down the wall. I got to clean this one up. It's got some mortar on it. It'll flow down the wall, hit the drip rail, and drip off away from all my wood. And it also covers the OSB where it sits on top of the wood. You can see down here, you can see the edge of the OSB, and that way I've got my OSB hidden. And then also what I do is along each timber, I take a 1x1. I just take some of my 2x4. I've still got a few of those rough cut 2x4s, and I rip them down to 1 inch wide, and then just 1-inch square strips. And then I nail that. That acts as a key. And that way the mortar goes around this and helps to lock it in. So just one of the best practices things. So I've got this ready. I just need to cut some more logs. I got a few of them over here, short ones that fill in. These short ones here will fill in the space between the timber and the wall. See there? Fills that space in. That way I've got solid wall here. And that lets me, that bailed me out because I cut some of these a little short to make 16-inch, but they work out great when I need something that's 10.5 or 9.25 inches long for filling in between the timber and the wall for the house. So that's what that looks like. And after this, I'll include the video. I'll speed it up, showing how a cordwood wall is made, at least how I make it. And this is my first wall. It's not perfectly straight. I learned a lot from this one. There's a reason why I did this one first. It's on the back of the house. That way you have to walk back here in the back, and we won't really have anything here except trees, so no one would have a real reason to come back here. But so it's not perfectly straight, and but you know, it's up and it's solid, and it's well insulated, and that thing, I like it. You notice differences in color in the mortar. You can kind of tell which was done most recently. The darkest gray is most recently up to the lightest gray, and then of course down here at the bottom you see the mortar has turned almost white because of the lime in the putty lime mortar. So as it dries, it turns from gray like you would see normally in a Portland cement to almost a white. Such a light gray, it's a white color, and it's a nice little contrast with the wood, and I think it looks nice. At Serenity Hill, I just thought I'd show you a little bit of a cordwood. I've done one batch today, and getting ready to start my second batch of mortar. It's a putty lime mortar, and I got it off the cordwoodconstruction.org recipe. It's kind of the gold standard recipe for making mortar. It piles up on the mortar hoe. I have to bust that off every once in a while. At any rate, it's see, everything doesn't always go perfect. Got me a little gauge here that I made. Got that off their website too. The idea for it anyway. 3 inches for mortar on each side, and then in between is filled with insulation. 16 inches from inside to inside. And just so I don't mess it up, I got the recipe for the mortar here, and it uses 3 parts sand, 2 parts soaked pine sawdust or softwood sawdust, coarse stuff like you'd get from chainsawing or from a sawmill. There's a nearby sawmill. I was able to get some for free, which was a good thing. And then 1 part Portland cement, 1.5 parts lime, and then 1 part water. Now it makes a real stiff mix. I'm mixing mine by hand in this tray using a mortar hoe. This stuff is pretty, like I said, it's pretty stiff, and then I just kind of do a final mix by hand to make sure I've got everything incorporated, and just to get a feel for if it's thick enough. If it's too thin, it wants to slump and spread on you. So and you kind of have to do the water by feel based on what the moisture level is, you know, humidity is in the air. First day I was doing this stuff, it was 95 degrees out, and it was wanting to set up real quick. I had to use a little bit more water. Today it's cooler, It's not one to set up as quick. What you want it to form a ball that'll hold its shape and not slump on you, but not be so dry that it wants to crack. And this is pretty good. Probably still a little bit wetter than I need it to be, but it'll work. Better than the last batch I did. It was too thin. And what I do, wherever you leave off, you soak the ends of a log in water so that they don't take all the moisture out of your mortar. And then wherever you left off, like right here is mortar from last time. It's several days old. You can see a difference in color. This is the fresh stuff that was just put in today, and then this is stuff that's almost a week old, and it's drying. You can see it dry. As it dries, it gets whiter and whiter. So what I got to do now is spray the logs and the concrete that's already there so they don't suck all the moisture out of my mortar. And then once I put down a layer of mortar, I'll fill the cavities in with this loose cellulose insulation, and then start setting more logs on. So here I go, spraying it down. A good spray bottle is indispensable, and especially one where you can have some control so you don't get your insulation all wet. And I'm going to replace this one. At the risk of sounding too editorial or whatever, anyways, the spray bottles, they're all Chinese made. I'm just not real happy with how any spray bottle works. They certainly don't last long. They're cheap. You get what you pay for. I'm going to buy another one when I go get more sand today, because I don't know if this one's going to last much longer. Oops. This one's coming apart. Okay, I'll spray about 3 or 4 of them, and then I'll put some more mortar on. And right here. The interesting thing about mortar is, even if it's dry, if you need it to flow, you just kind of punch it some, and I don't know, it kind of brings up the water, and it makes it get a little thinner, so you can get it to go where you want. It's weird, the strange things you figure out when you're doing something like this. Sorry for showing you my backside. Probably my best side. Oops. Now, I will tuck point the outside on this particular wall until I get about so tall. I won't be bothering with the inside because um, on the other side of this wall is going to be drywall. That's a closet, although maybe I should leave a red cedar in there. And then behind here is going to be our bathroom vanity, and the bathroom vanity is going to cover the first about 3 foot of it. So I'm not going to worry about tuck pointing that, because guess what? I don't really like tuck pointing. It's a necessary thing, but it's not the most fun part of the job. And of course, you know, the wood isn't all perfectly cylindrically shaped, so it might be taller on one end than the next, so you have to take that into account when you're putting it in, and when you're picking your logs, and kind of work around that. You know, when you're using natural materials, nothing is perfectly round and perfectly square in nature, so you just got to work around that. That's part of what makes it so beautiful. Now, ideally, somebody else would be in the process of, you know, if I had several people here, what I'd be doing is I would be working out of this mortar tub, and while I'm doing that, somebody else would be mixing another batch of mortar. And then after I get the mortar put in, you know, I get mortar put in, somebody else is going to come along and put in the logs. And then after the logs are put in, somebody else would come along and start tuck pointing. And we could do a lot of wall in a very short time. But at least for now, I don't have that luxury. Unless I can con some friends and family members into coming out and having a cordwood party with me. So maybe I'll do that. See if I can con some people coming out. Tell them, hey, I'll fix you a barbecue. Now I put some of the cellulose insulation. I have to break it up and fluff it up. This is the type that you would normally blow into an attic, but I can't exactly blow it in here. So, and I can't bring it over close because I got water all over the place here. I don't want my insulation to get soaked, but it's just a loose fiberfill cellulose insulation that you would normally see blown into your attic. Just break it up as best I can. Fill the cavity with it. And some people might say, well, cellulose, that's just paper and newspaper, shredded paper, and shredded pulp and all that. Won't that catch fire? Well, they treat it so that it is fire resistant, meets all your fire resistant codes and everything. So, and it's about 10 inches thick in here. So think about that. Most people in their attic are using 2x10s for their trusses, excuse me, or the rafters, and then they're blowing this stuff in to fill that space. So they're putting about 10 inches thick. 10 inches thick is about R30. So the logs themselves are about R24 to 26. And the insulation is actually a value of about R30, but since the wood's lower, the actual R value of the wall will be that of the wood. But plenty of insulation. So Cordwood homes, by virtue of the fact that they have so much thermal mass in the wood that makes them up, and then you've got all this insulation in here, are quite energy efficient. Okay. You wet the ends of the wood so that it doesn't soak up too much of the water. And work there. Okay, there we go. No, that's too much like the other one. I'm trying to vary my pattern so that I don't get them all looking the same. Make it look as random as possible. And then I don't use all of my mortar, that way where I need to fill in a little bit to brace something, well, I can do that. And then this one needs a round. And these logs have also been soaked in a solution with some borax to kill off mold and any critters that might want to grow in there. I don't know if you can see there, but this log is right up against this piece of wood, this 2x4, that is actually framing the closet in the guest room. And I'm going to save this one. It's got some beautiful grain. I'm going to put it up in the bathroom where it can be seen, or maybe over here in this wall, because I want it to be seen. That's beautiful grain. we go. And I don't have to worry about those going anywhere on me. You really don't want to leave that mortar on your hands for too long. Now, I don't want to bill myself as a cordwood expert, because I'm not. This is my first cordwood wall. So I am by no means an expert. But I do know one. And, you know, there's lots of resources out there. Cordwoodconstruction.org. Richard Flatow. Hope I pronounce his name right. He also has a Facebook group called Cordwood Construction. Shares a lot of tips. He's got 2 or 3 books out, DVDs. A website, cordwoodconstruction.org, with all kinds of resources. So I said, I may not be an expert, but I know one. And sometimes it's not just what you know, but what the people that you know, because you can use them for a resource. That's what it kind of sort of looks like. I'm going to have to mix me another, I got enough sand to make 1/2 batch, and then I can finish up this piece at the end here. And then it's make another trip to get some more materials. Seems like I spend half my time running to Menards and Home Depot, but that's what it looks like to build a cordwood wall. Like I said, it's not something that you're going to knock together super fast. It takes time, but I think it looks pretty amazing, and I'm looking really excited, really forward to getting more done. I think as I go along further, I get a little faster, a little more proficient at it, and of course when I'm not talking to the camera, it goes faster too. All right, so I hope you enjoyed that little speeded up video of how cordwood is put together. As you can see, it's a rather labor intensive process, but the beauty of it is this wall is done. I have nothing else to do with this. If this was stick frame construction, I would build the stick frame, put my vapor barrier on it, you know, my house wrap on it, and then I'd put my insulation on it. I'd have to come back and put foam, or if I was going to put foam on underneath my siding, then I have to put my siding on, and then I have to go inside and put my drywall on, and then mud and tape that and everything. This wall is finished. I won't do anything to this wall from this point forward except look at it. So I am done with this wall, finished. So I can move on to the next one. One down, 17 more to go. But hey, getting started is half of getting the job done, right? Until next time, this is Bob at Serenity Hill. Have a good one. Maybe you'll be inspired to build something like this and be crazy like me.